I think recovery, in all the support groups that go with recovery, whether it's any AA, any fellowship, is a good thing because it gives people a support group. And Scotland being Scotland, which is where I was brought up, it obviously has quite a strong relationship with, first of all, alcohol, and then with drugs as well. In some ways, I think that we invented drinking. And people, even to this day, you meet people and they have a very strange relationship to people who don't drink. And it's almost like, they see people who don't drink as sort of strange creatures and outcasts. And I think that the fellowships that exist in order to support people with this disease, which is in effect what it is, and people don't quite get that as well, that it is actually a disease that people have. It's important for them to demystify it, to make it very simple for people to understand that without these fellowships, without these support groups, then the people just don't get better. Anything that gives us an opportunity to be able to open and not feel embarrassed about talking about people's illnesses is a terrific thing. That in itself is brilliant. So any group that attracts people and allows them to open up about the isms that they have is an incredibly important thing. And I think that whether it manifests itself in therapy or in recovery, the fact is that it deals with the past as well as the present. It's not just an elastoplast. It's not a band-aid. It's a re-examination or an examination of everything that leads you to the point that you are, A, of where you come into recovery, and B, that the easiest thing that I've heard people say is the easiest thing is to stop drinking or to stop taking drugs. The difficult thing is to understand why and to carry on that path and staying sober and staying clean. And it then becomes about a kind of a journey into your past, and it makes you have a better understanding of you as a human being. Because if you stop drinking or stop taking drugs or whatever your addiction is, the chances are that unless you have a very healthy recovery, you'll start replacing that with something else. That's something that happens with people who are addicts. And it's important to understand and to recognise for those people that the journey is a long one, and it doesn't stop when you stop drinking or taking drugs. I think alcohol and drugs are a suppression of emotions for most people, and I think that it's people stay in it's almost like they're stuck in time. And when they stop taking drugs and drinking, it's almost like they walk out into the world and they're like, what happened? Where did all that time go? Recovery for a lot of people then makes them understand about the history of themselves. It's like watching a flower that's had a real problem blooming, and every spring that comes along it's never touched, and then suddenly starts to open up. Aside from looking entirely different, because they stop poisoning their bodies with whatever it is. But the mental poison as well is quite significant. So to see someone's psyche and emotions and the whole mental side of things changes the way they look as well, and just the physiological effect of abstinence and of clean time and sober time is quite extraordinary in people. It's an incredible thing, Recovery Walk Scotland. I think that it's a great magnet, to let people see how important it is to other people who've gone through the recovery process. And I think to me it's a kind of it's a metaphor for the recovery process in general, because I've heard it said that when people start in recovery, every walk is a step in the road to salvation, if you want to call it that. But it's a feeling of being less lonely, and that you're surrounded by people who are in a similar situation, and every step on that recovery walk is a step not only for themselves and their own recovery process, but for everyone who may be out hear about that walk, and who may well be in need of help, and who may be thinking about, you know, what do I do? How do I stop this cycle of, you know, absolute self-hatred and of drink and drugs and whatever it is they're taking? It's that, you know, people like themselves, people from the toughest, hardest, most difficult backgrounds, who seem maybe to have no hope in the future, when they go into recovery, something changes, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully the walk will be an advertisement for the the genius of what I see recovery as being, which is this, you know, organisation that's, whether it's recovery or any other group, but you know, it's self-managing, has no leaders, no groups. It's quite an extraordinary entity, and you know, I think it's an incredible thing.